look at me right on time. Can you believe it? I can barely believe it. Happy Tuesday. Let's go. Okay, so today is why your horse isn't better yet and why that's actually a good thing. And again, it's not letting me see that I'm even live in the group. So let's just all cross our fingers and hope that that's working. It says I am, but can we believe it, you know? My app is being a little janky, I guess. Fuck it. It is what it is. So, why your horse isn't getting better and why it's a good thing. So, you guys, I see this a lot. So, your horse has been either diagnosed by a vet with a problem. You have seen yourself that your horse is uncomfortable and you've gotten help, right? Whether that's maybe you didn't get help, maybe you're doing it yourself, maybe you're a fucking badass and you're like, I'm gonna figure this out. Right? But you know what the problem is. You're like, okay, my horse is clearly lame on this foot. My horse is very clearly sore in her saddle. My horse has got ulcers. This is a new thing. I'm like seeing all the signs. I'm like, oh, this is what this is. My horse is ridiculously itchy. Hi, this is what we're dealing with right now. And you're taking steps forward. You apply, you're smart about it because you've attended maybe last week's call or the call before that where we talked about how important it is to approach our horse care very much like a scientific experiment. We don't just throw spaghetti at the wall. We don't try 10 different things at once as much as we can, help ourselves. We apply one thing at a time and see if that's working. Just like if, we could, in some instances, do a elimination diet, right? Where we take everything out and then we put one thing in at a time and see if A, that helps, or B, it makes it worse, right? In allergy horses, that's a pretty common thing to try and do. Not just horses, but people too. And anyway, so we're applying one thing at a time and we want to give it a chance to work. And I think, maybe the best example of this is when I work with clients where we have to adjust the feet. It's not uncommon at all for me to go meet a new client who they're like, I don't know what the problem is, but I'm not doing so great. So I figured I'd call you because I just want them to feel their best and, we would help them out. And I'm like, I got questions about these feet. I got questions, which is always how it is, right? I'm going to ask you questions because I need to know what's already been approached. I need to know who you've already asked for help with this. I need to know about what your farrier has already told you. Like, what are you already aware of? And has anybody presented these concerns to you before? And so oftentimes when this happens and I ask questions and we get answers and we get to the bottom of it and they need to make a change, this is hard. People believe that a horse that's been shod needs to remain shod. And this is not an uncommon belief. Well, they have to have shoes. If they don't have shoes, then blah, 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 fill in the blank. If they don't have shoes, they're going to be footsore. If they don't have shoes, they won't be able to, move the way they need to, whatever the fucking thing is. There's always something where they're like, if they don't have shoes, their feet will just fall apart. And in some cases, that can be true. It's just more rare than people give it credit for. So we go in and we make changes. Sometimes it's taking the horse barefoot. Sometimes it's just dramatically changing hoof angles because angles are important. They're so important. And this is a big one where when we change hoof angles, this is not going to be easy. There are some people that are like, well, just do it gradually, a little bit at a time. And I get that. I do. In some instances, that may be appropriate. But in a lot of cases that I've worked on, it's like, we can do this gradually over time and your horse can remain in pain for a very long time as we start to gradually make these changes. Or we can get in there and we can make the changes that need to be made as much as reasonably possible, right? Like, there's only so much we can do with the foot that is there to get it to a correct shape. And then we usually have to let it grow and then correct it a little bit more, right? But we don't want to just be making minor changes when we can just go in and change the foot to support it for its best growth pattern to get us to where we want to go to at the most efficient pace. And this generally means that there's going to be discomfort and your horse is going to be sore and they were going to look worse before they look better. And, this is the common phrase that I give people is healing is not a linear journey. We all know what that's like. There's ups and downs. And sometimes those setbacks are really the best possible thing in that situation. I believe it was last week that we talked about how a fever is not a problem that we need to fix. It's not. It's a symptom of a larger problem, but it's the body's way of actually solving a problem. It's a sign and a solution. And so, when we make these hoof changes, that first week is really rough. And when we do hoof changes that are going to be dramatic, I always recommend that we do massage within a few days after those changes. So that we can help support the body, because the hoof angle, that's the foundation of the body. And so we need to correct the hoof angle as best we can and then help the body adjust through those changes. And that first week is really rough. And then the next week, sometimes they look great. Or so in one example, recently I had one, she was really sore. The owner was concerned and I was like, put her on Bute. I'll be there in 3 days. We're just going to stick to our planned schedule. And I know it stresses people out. I know it does. Because I'm also a horse owner, right? And I go out and I'm like, no, this is actually really good. I know you're stressed because she's, we don't want her in pain, but she was in pain before we started this. You just couldn't see it. You couldn't see it the way that I saw it. I knew that she was uncomfortable and they did too, right? She was swishing her tail, pinning her ears, not performing. But they just thought she was uncomfortable and there wasn't these bigger issues, right? So after that massage, it was probably 2 days. 2 days later, I got, oh my God, she's moving amazing. 3 or 4 days later, so it was like 2 days after the first massage, and then 3 or 4 days after that first massage, after the feet change, I got, oh my gosh, she's crippled. She can't move. Should we have the shoes removed? And I was like, no, don't remove the shoes. You're not changing anything. I'm gonna be back out in 2 days. We're gonna be fine. Come out in 2 days, and she's already better. And I know that it's extremely frustrating, and I know that it's so easy to be like, we're just gonna go back to the way things were, or we're just gonna throw 6 more interventions. We're gonna try this, we're gonna try that, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And really, what we need is time. Time to let the body adjust. Time to let the changes sink in. We have to understand that when we're trying to correct something, this doesn't work. The body needs time. Time to integrate. Time to rebalance with the nervous system. This isn't throwing spaghetti at the wall. We can say, for example, these hoof angle changes, we know that they need to change. We can see the problems that it's causing in her entire body, which is why I was like, I got questions about these feet, but I didn't suggest changes until we got to the third massage, and I was like, we really have to talk about this. We need to see imaging because she's making progress, but I can feel in her body now that this is a long-standing pattern, right? We've peeled back compensation enough that I can see what's underneath, and this is a long-standing pattern, and it's all tied together. So if we start to correct what's going on, what I suspect is going on in the feet, then we're going to get way better. And okay, so it's the end of May. Yeah, it's only been a month. That horse is I'm just about ready to clear her to be ridden again. She feels great. She's getting her feet reset. I do believe she just got them reset yesterday, or they're happening today. And, her body has changed so much. She had so many body issues, but they were rooted in the feet. And if we would have taken those shoes off, went back to where we were, went back to where we started, first of all, it wouldn't have solved the problem, right? The pain would still be there. She's still on different angles. And the shoes were composite shoes, which she was wearing steel before, which is really funny. But anyways, we're not going to sidetrack onto that. The point is that when we allow for things to integrate, it's not just we're waiting. It's not just like the surface level of, well, healing takes time. Healing doesn't have to take long amounts of time, but it does take some, because we have to let the nervous system integrate these changes, okay? It's not as simple as, I gave my horse ulcer meds today and it soothed her gut, and now we no longer have an ulcer problem. It can create an instantaneous relief to some extent, right? Just like massage can come in and create an instant change. Relatively instant. And in one session, right? We can see a big change. But that doesn't change how the body functions. It doesn't change how the body moves. It doesn't change how the nervous system understands the body is positioned in space. None of that changes in that instant. We can correct posture. We can change range of motion. We can coat the stomach with various medications, but it doesn't change what caused the problem in the first place, which all comes down to body function and nervous system understanding, integration, proprioception. All of those things takes time to integrate. So just because you're sitting here saying, but my horse isn't better yet, and we've done all these things, like horse mom to horse mom, it's okay. I know that your four-legged baby is uncomfortable and it is so hard for you to watch, and you just feel awful that you can't do something about it, and that it should have never got to this point, and you're just beside yourself, and what you could have, should have, would have done, and what you could, should, would still do. Give them time, give them space, send energy, and connect on that energetic level, because when you do that, you're allowing yourself to understand a little bit more of where your horse is at, what they're actually dealing with, and where they might actually need more support, right? And it's probably not what you're thinking, because you're over here absorbed in all of your feelings as a horse mom. But that's not the way it has to be, right? We get to understand that subtle shifts are happening in this time that we're giving, okay? We're allowing breathing patterns to change, softness in tissue to increase. We're allowing the nervous system to integrate a new alignment within the body, right? And we don't want to rush this process, because when we do, then we're really just setting ourselves up for failure. You're pushing your horse and pushing your horse into new integrations. And so when we're looking at this from like a nutritional standpoint, so I had a client reach out, and they're a horse trainer, and this horse had about a month and a half before big futurity competitions, and she's like, the trainer that had him before just totally did this horse wrong. They just didn't know what they were doing. This horse has got immune issues. This horse is muscle sore. This horse is all kinds of everything, like just a hot mess, all kinds of issues. They pulled bloods. The numbers were not where they wanted them to be, and which is where they saw like immunosuppression and things like that. And they're like, we really want to pull this horse together and do the best we can to get them to the futurity competition. We've been doing vitamin jugs. We're working with our vet to make nutritional adjustments. We are exercising, but not at the level at which we should be, because we want to make sure that we're not risking injury, which is super smart, right? They're like, we want you to come out and do massages. We are looking to get someone out to do PEMF, blah, blah, like all these things you're doing. And I said, I love where your heart is with this, but everything in me says this is too much, too fast for this horse. So let's talk about that, because it sounds like all these good things, right? Vitamin jugs, hydration jugs, long, slow work, not anything high intensity, getting body work done. I think they did chiropractic. They were doing acupuncture. They wanted me to come out and, like I said, body work, but then also get PEMF. All right, well, all of that sounds great. And so the PEMF is what actually pushed me over the top, besides the fact that they already did like chiropractic and acupressure and all these things. They're just throwing everything at this horse. I was like, the whole purpose of PEMF is deep cellular cleaning. And you're already doing so much deep cellular work. It is totally likely that you are going to, this horse is already immunosuppressed. Like, you're going to flood that horse's system with toxins unintentionally. You're trying to flood it with good things, but what this horse needs is a good clean out. And if you're giving a good clean out, like you're flushing the system, you're going to overwhelm the kidneys, you're going to overwhelm the liver, you're going to unintentionally flood this horse and put them back. This horse needs more time. And you trying to put everything, like throw everything at this horse to speed up the process is actually slowing you down. So one of my other favorite phrases is slow down to speed up. And in this case, they were trying to speed up but it was going to slow them down. Okay? So time is our friend. If your horse isn't better yet, that's okay. I mean, let's make sure you've gotten the right team assembled to make wise choices for how your horse is spending this time, because this is where time isn't going to serve you. Is like for this horse, for example, that needs all of this stuff. Well, maybe didn't need all of it, but they were doing all of this stuff for it. What she needed was time. She did not need, she would not have been served by none of those services being provided to her and being thrown out in a pasture. So this is where people get things confused, okay? Time is your friend when it is a very integral part of a healing plan. We can use time as a monitor to see our progress and to keep us on track. However, when you're like, my horse has a problem, they're just sore, their stomach's bothering them, like whatever, fill in the blank. My horse just has this problem. I'm just going to put them out in the pasture for 2 or 3 months and let them heal. That's not how that works either, okay? Yes, we need time, but time is a integral part of a bigger healing plan, not as the whole solution. Time does not heal on its own, right? There's people out there say time does not heal all wounds. Well, right. Time isn't anything to heal on its own. Time is what allows you to bear witness, to show up in partnership, to find the tools, to integrate the tools, and allow healing to happen in the process. Time does not heal, but it allows for healing. Okay? So, we really get to evaluate that. How are we using that time? What are we doing with that time? It's not as simple as just throw them in the pasture and allow time to pass. It's also not as simple as throw everything, everything at them possible to create healing. Okay, we have to find that balancing point. So, we get to create this pause to also observe what's going on with our horse and create connection in that time, right? Like I said, when you create that connection with your horse, you have an opportunity to receive feedback from them about what they actually need and what you may be missing. So often we're so up in our heads about what we've done wrong, what we coulda, shoulda, woulda, that we completely miss something else entirely. Bruce has been itchy like all freaking year, and it's been one thing after another. It's not just been one cause. It's been one thing after another. And the first ones were pretty easy to identify. The first 3 issues we had, rain rot and fungus, and then, he had ended up with lice. Like, what the fuck? We don't even go anywhere. We don't bring other horses here. Like, how do we get these? According to the internet, it's not possible, but they were there. And, when we were going through the lice issue, I kept having this whole, like, there's got to be more, there's got to be more, there's got to be something else I could do over and over and over and over again. I just felt so awful that he just can't catch a break with itchiness. And if I would have stayed in that headspace, I would have continued to treat for lice because he's still itchy. Instead, I took a step back. I fell on my intuitive skills to support me through this process, and I had to emotionally regulate first, because if I stay in my head about what I coulda, shoulda, woulda, whatever, all the shit I could have done, I would have missed what he needed me to know, which is, yes, there's some fine-tuning in nutrition that has happened recently, but also, he just has fucking dry skin. He just has dry skin, which, I muscle tested, and we're going to do a couple special baths and up the fat content in his nutrition to really support healthy skin, which I suspect the dry skin is from the lice treatments. So doesn't that just make sense? But my point is that through that whole process, because it was about a 2-week, because so I treat, you do a treatment bath, and then you have to do another one in 2 weeks. And so it was like watching him, and every time he'd scratch, I'm like, oh my God, I need to do something. And I have to remind myself, like, no, we get to wait, because this is the time. We're allowing the healing. And also, there was more than just the treatment bath. But there was, because ivermectin, because depending on the type of lice, that can be killed from the inside out. Hooray! So we did ivermectin and then lice bath, and it was really hard to wait the 2 weeks. But, especially because now it's like, I feel like the itching is worse, but it's also not. It's different. It's different. So if I would have panicked and kept throwing lice treatments at him, we'd probably be in a much worse situation now, because it's just dry skin at this point. Like, I mean, trust me, I've been over this horse with a fine-tooth comb. It's dry skin and the gall darn bugs that have finally come out. But the point is that time is your friend. When you walk hand in hand with time on a healing journey, intentionally, we can't just throw horses down the field and expect things to work themselves out, right? Because healing happens in between the work that we do. Even if changes happen while we're doing the work, that's not the end, okay? Stillness is not a stagnation. It's an allowing. It's a place that we get to be present and witness change happen and fill the gaps as we go. If we don't wait, if we are not patient, we end up missing things and creating bigger problems. Patience is power. Okay, so how do you know when your horse is integrating or you're hitting stagnation? Obviously, I don't have any more time in this 20-minute segment to really go into depth on that. But in the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification Program, this is what we talk about. We talk about tracking shifts over time, and real nervous system regulation and integration, what that looks like, and how to read the body and use our intuition, our muscle testing, to be able to determine what's actually going on and what we need to do next. And the same thing is like, what if you wait too long? What if you wait too long and you miss like this moment to intervene? That moment doesn't exist, okay? And we really go into more depth on that again in the certification program. We have set protocols with timing windows that have been pretty consistent and work. And we also come up with help you to determine for each horse what that timing looks like, because it's going to be different from horse to horse. So don't stress about it, because I do believe in divine timing. And, if you miss the perfect timing, you still learn something, right? It's not a complete failure. It's just another lesson. So if you don't need any more tools, but you do need to know when and how to use them and when to wait, this is one of the things that we really talk about inside of the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification Program. So your work creates lasting change, not more chaos. All right. Real healing can't be rushed, and you already have everything you need to witness what that healing looks like. So you guys know the drill. I will see you all next Tuesday. Catch you later.